Hello folks, I'm Kevin and welcome to the new video about React hooks. This third one will be about a hook called useRef. useRef is very simple, it's very easy to understand. If you are confused about it, you won't be anymore, I promise. So, the way it works, let me share my screen. First of all, by importing useRef from React and by calling it here, like I'll create a variable, it can be ref, like Copilot suggested. I'll create count. A count is a very good example for everything because you can see how things work with a very simple behavior and count 0. So let's remake the increment example. Const increment count current plus fun. Yeah, so first of all, to access the variable that you're saving inside a reference variable, you need to access the current property of it. So right now, I'm even showing on the screen. Let me put the button here, just like the example on the use state. Count dot current, and on click, not on play, on click, I'm calling increment. All right, here we have our button with a 0. When I click it, it doesn't work. And just like on our use state video, we are getting the update here. So what the hell, is count the same as a regular variable? Not quite. And that's because if I had the other variable here, I'll call it count2. And I'll also increment count2 here. And I'll also, just to make our example better, I also have a state variable. Use state. Sorry, my brain melted for a second. Count3. Let me put it down here, which will be initially 0. So I'll have a different button for count3. And that's it. And count2. So since this first one shows the value 3 increments both the count2 and count1, I'm also putting the count2 here. Or even better, I'm gonna add that here. This one will be the count ref, this one count let, and this one count state. All right. So if I click on this first one, we know that the two values, I'll even clear here, the two values are being incremented. I'm not logging in, am I? Trust me, both of them, no, don't trust me, let me show you. And let count 2, sorry, 2 is Portuguese. So both of them are being incremented, but if I increment the state one, all right, 1, 2, 3, and I click here, oh, can you see already? So the count of the useRef is 4 now, and the let one's 0. And that's why, as I mentioned on the previous video, when we call a set state, for example, when we re-render the component, we run this code again. And that's a very important thing you should know, because it will be also important to understand the other hooks. All of that will run again. That means that regular variables such as the state, the let count2, will be redeclared, and it is declared as 0 here. That's why it's 0 again. So if I save that again, we just have the updated value for the ref variable and not the let one. All right? Both state variables and ref variables, they persist through re-renders. They are better to work with the React lifecycle. Sometimes we don't need to save them as ref because we don't need them to persist through the re-renders. Like on the previous video, when I had the error message variable, it was always getting the output of the validate input. So there was no need to save the value through the re-renders. Yeah, so quick rewind here. The useRef creates a variable that we access its value and we can reassign it by accessing the current property. And differently from a regular variable, it persists through re-renders, and different from the use state, it doesn't trigger the component to re-render. Okay, until now? And also, with React, so you should know that looks like HTML, but that's not really HTML. That's JavaScript. But it does look a lot like HTML because that's JSX, an extension to JavaScript. And since it's not exactly HTML, we do get some difference. For example, the on-click here is in camel case. If we were working with plain HTML, it would be just a lowercase on-click. Another difference is that all the default tags, they accept a property, a prop called ref. For example, if I'll add a ref to this div. Ref is equals to div ref. And I'll create another one here. Use ref hook. And this one will be the div ref. The initial value, whatever, can be null, for example. And when we set that, after the first render, the div_ref.current will receive the value of the DOM element of this div. So if I call useEffect here, for example, useEffect hook. So as soon as it renders, I wanna, for example, call the, let's see, I'm gonna log the div_ref.current. Let's see if it works. Refreshing the page, and here we have our div. So we can work directly on it. For example, if I say that the div_ref.current.style dot whatever background color is light blue. Thank you, Copilot. And I re-render the page here. We can see that I refresh the page. Sorry. We can see that now it's blue. We can access the DOM element directly. And that's useful in some cases. For example, we can also work with an input here. Let's say we have an input type button, value click me, whatever. I'll just remove it for a type text button. Ref will be input ref. And now I'm creating a new ref variable called input ref. This one also starting as a null. Let me just clean a little bit because it looks horrible right now to work. I'll remove this count. I'll remove the div ref. I don't need it anymore. I'll remove those. Yeah, now we only have the input. All right. I'll also add a button here. And this button, oh, that's a good example already. If I click this button, I want the input ref current, so the input, to trigger the focus. So if we have that here, and I click it here, we have a focus. Sometimes, for example, you want to create a mask for some components, like you want an input. Let me see Google here. So Google, for example, has this input, and I bet that's not an input tag like on their sides here. We have a div here. Let's see. So as you can see, that's a div. Inside the div, you have a smaller component that should be an input, maybe. Do we? Maybe we don't. We have a text area here. But notice the size of the text area is just this. But you have, let's say, a mask. The whole thing looks like an input. But if I click here, we also get the focus here. You understand? So one way to achieve that is to get, when you click on this div, trigger the focus on the text area component. And we could be doing that here and pretending the whole thing here was an input. Yeah, that's one example. You can also get the, so instead of focusing on click, on click, I'm gonna log the value of the input current value, and I can access the value directly. So even though I don't have the input here on a state variable, if I click here, all right, with the value that we assigned, we can even manipulate the input. So if I get the input ref current value, now it will receive dog. So if we do that, now it is dog, or I could use that to clean the input. So yeah, wrapping up, useRef, I already explained about the difference and similarities between regular variable, like let variable, and state variable. And right now, the other property is that you can assign as a ref prop to the default tags, and as a result, you can access the DOM element for them. Yeah, I hope you learned about useRef. I hope everything is clear. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.